Hi guys, Lucas from Lucas Cars. Today we're having a look at what camera gear I use to do my YouTube videos. Jumping straight to it without giving you any sort of like ramble, which we tend to do quite easily. This is an overview of the basic stuff that I do use in general day-to-day sort of stuff. Certain things that I specifically use more than others than sort of that sort of thing. But we'll jump straight to this camera just because I'm filming on the GoPro currently, which is one of the cameras I do use, which I'll show you once we switch cameras over. But this is the main one that I go with. General like photos, videos and whatnot. It's a Canon 200D, which it specifies on the side there. Still got the kit lens on it, nothing particularly special. Has got like a lens cap protector on it. Quickly going over the camera without it being like a tutorial of it or like anything like that. It has like a flippy out screen, which we're going to attempt to do one-handed. It spins all the way around so you can do it for like vlogging mode and stuff. It does a lot of things. It's got like manual mode, it's got like zoom in and out obviously. There's like digital zoom on there as well. You can change like the brightness and the contrast and do fancy like autofocus things and like without autofocus like manual things for like cinematics and whatnot. It is a good camera. I mean, it's definitely a lot better than what my capabilities are, which much of my stuff is, but it's definitely, I mean, if you see my videos then it's a good example of this sort of thing. I'm probably going to add a clip of using this camera, using the current camera and then my other camera as well, of just so you can see what you do kind of get footage wise. Obviously you're getting a bit of the GoPro currently of what that looks like. We're going to jump to that camera now anyway because my GoPro is about to die. I just quickly charged it in the car just so I could get this bit out of the way and then we can continue the video properly with my other gear that we've got. So here we are. You can tell it's probably a load different with swapping cameras. Obviously we're a lot more zoomed in, but this is as much zoomed out as we get. Obviously you can see the difference of the GoPro. I've not changed any position at all. So we'll talk about the GoPro I suppose as we're on the topic. Amazing camera. It's the Hero 9, which is, it says it on the side, but it's currently got like the thing around it. But it's like a, I'm trying to think what it's called. It's basically just a microphone, but it probably has some fancy name. It could just be that, but it's just a microphone. Goes around it like a case style of thing. Doesn't really protect it as such, but it's kind of there in the event you wanted to do that. Shoots up to like 4K. I don't know if it's 30 or 60 FPS. I know it does do 60 FPS and 120. It depends on what shooting mode you're in. I tend to just do like your standard 60 frames a second 1080p because I don't really upload anything. I tend to upload in 30 FPS to be fair. I tend to change it when some editing or whatnot. Depends what I'm doing, but it's there. That is a great camera. I think they're on to 10 now possibly. I could be wrong. There's definitely newer ones than that, but I bought that when it came out and it's been great. Not need to upgrade it. It does amazingly well. The main focus or use I guess of that camera is doing like the interior shots of the car, so like the head cam I suppose is a better way to put that, which I'll insert clips and whatnot so you can see it in use obviously. And
what the? Crabbing.
yeah. Well, I've got too much heat now in the tyres. I get out of it, but that's kind of that. I do the odd vlog with it. It's a great camera because you can see my hand size, it's small, so it's one of them where you can take around with you and stuff and it's not really a burden or anything, where this one's a little bit bigger, very lightweight though, this DSLR that I'm currently holding, so it's not a bad camera, do you know what I mean? The options there, kind of, that's what I have the selection for. Then the other one, which I kind of don't really use anymore, this is my first GoPro that I got, which is the, I had to read it then to see what it was. It's the Session 5, which once I've got that camera, this one became a bit, I don't want to say rubbish, but it's just not as good. Obviously this one you've got the screens front and back, you get interchangeable batteries, I've got the mic on it, so the quality on that is just immaculate. This itself, it's more of an inconvenience in terms of you have no screen. You can pair it to your phone obviously and have a look through the screen and see what it sees, but that's a faff of connecting your phone up and all that. It's not that bad, but it's an extra thing. Say if I'm drifting, I don't want to be getting my phone out and looking to see if what it's got, sort of thing. I like to just click it and off it goes, which sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does, but it's mainly because it's an old camera, it has been abused. This one tends to be the camera that I don't really care about, if I'm like being honest, so it will go on the outside of the car. Obviously I'd be sad if it fell off because it's not a cheap camera, but I'd rather put this on the outside than that one because that's a lot of money. So that's kind of that. There's not a lot to say about it. The quality on it is also very good. It's a little bit older than that camera, but it does the job, sort of thing. It's versatile, do you know what I mean? You put it on the back of the car, get some really cool shots, which I'll insert as and when. But that's kind of that. There's not really too much to say about that. GoPros are great if you're doing like car content. That's the thing I can relate to, because that's what. But any content in general, just because they're small, good quality. The app's very good as well for like if you wanted to just use a GoPro and do all the editing stuff on the app. I don't really do that just because we'll get onto that. That's on there, which we can talk about. I have my tripod into this just because it's there. These, I can't remember, I think they're Joby something, Gorilla Pods. I think that's what they're called, is Gorilla Pod. Got the name eventually. I'm just kind of shooting this all raw just so you get it, because I prefer to just, I don't like to plan stuff, I like to just go at it, if that makes sense. Back to where we're at anyway. These things are mint. I've had this for quite a long time now, to be fair. And it basically just bends. It's hard to do with one hand, but each leg bends in all directions, so it's kind of, you can wrap it around stuff, you can hold it. I tend to use it as a nice sort of tripod to put on with this camera, so I'll put it under the camera and just hold it, or you can put it against you for a bit of less wobble. Depends what you're doing, sort of thing. But that's there, it's a tripod. I have got another like standard tripod, I suppose you call it. I didn't see the point of bringing that with me. But it's there, a very good item to also have, just for like a bit of stability and stuff like that. Like currently I'm just kind of stood still, not really a big issue. But if you say you're shooting a car and you kind of pan in, it depends how wobbly you are, but it's there, sort of thing. Now getting on to the other sort of, this is like the accessory section I suppose. Obviously I've got loads of bits for the GoPros, but we shan't go into mounts and stuff because that's kind of another thing. This is my first mic that I bought, which is that brand on the side, which I'm going to say is Takstar. The story of this one is I did a lot of research into microphones before I bought one. The like similar style to this is a Rode mic, which is like a boom. I think these are Boomstar ones or shotguns. I'm not too sure what the actual name's called. Doesn't really matter though. So that mounts onto the top of the camera, then that just plugs in. Depends on what camera you've got, but it goes with the one I've got, which is the Canon one. Amazing mic. It's like £30 odd at the time. Don't know if it's gone up or down. It was. In the reviews I saw, they were basically saying you can get a Rode mic for like £90, whatever it was, but this one's just as good. And I was like, well, I'll try it. It's cheaper. If it's good, then it's good. If it's not, then it's not a loss. But you got sound clips online and stuff. Microphones are good because you can watch a video and you can hear what it's going to sound like, so you kind of know what to expect when you buy stuff like that. Then moving on to microphones, this is where I kind of splashed the cash, I suppose. These are my other Rode mics. I say other Rode mics. That's not a Rode mic, but. So the story of not getting a Rode mic with that, I've had that for over 2-3 years possibly. I bought these ones this year. I'm going to attempt to put the camera down somewhere and then we can get these out. Okay, so just before I start speaking about these, the mic that was there I've now put on the camera, just because like as we're going to be rambling, I can put the mic on and you can hear the sound difference. Obviously it's a boom mic, shotgun mic, whatever you want to call it, and it's directional kind of, so it's facing forward, which is away from me, but you'll be able to get the sound, so I speak across the camera, so you get to get the sound difference if you can kind of tell that. I don't know what's going to be like until else they edit it. These are the Wireless Go 2s, which they come in this variant, or you can get the variant where you get 3 of them. Fantastic bit of kit, obviously. With Rode they kind of go above and beyond. I know I spoke about them not necessarily in the best of light with the last microphone, but These are a bit different in a way of that obviously they clip onto you if you couldn't tell what they were, so they have clips on the back. It's one of them. It's a bit like you see them in like interviews and stuff. You clip onto your top, speak with them. I tend to try and use these as much as possible just because they were quite expensive. And it's more of the fact of that with a boom mic you have to kind of be close to the camera to get like your sound and stuff, where with these I can kind of wander off. So say if someone's filming me, I go under a car or I'm doing something, the sound's not going to change because that's still clipped onto me. You can get like little like these for them where they're just like windbreakers, I suppose they're called. But yeah, this is like the mother of them, I suppose. This is the one that will go onto your camera, so it clips onto the top a bit like the boom mic or shotgun mic, whatever you want to call it. This will display, I could probably turn it on to be fair if it's got battery. There we go. So you'll be able to see, I don't know how I can do this. It's tricky because we're outside. But basically I'll explain it. So it has like the left side and the right side. It's not going to work because we're outside in the dark, but I'll explain it. It'll show each mic individually of like battery life and like the bar of like sound. There's probably a fancy name for that, but when it moves across you can see the sound sort of moving, bouncing, whatever you want to call it, just so you can see that your audio's set correctly. You can have these, can't remember what the term would be, but when I looked into these, there's a way of that when you record, you can record them as a pair, or you can record them individually. So if you want to have split sound for like that sound and that sound, or you just want them merged as one, which I just merged them because if I'm using two, it's because I've got a second person with me, so I'm like, well, I'm not going to have that audio. I think it depends. If you want to edit like sound and be very particular, say if someone, I don't know, there's an issue with the other person's mic, you can then tweak it, but I'm not that technical, so it's just kind of just record all the sound, quality sound, there we go. Then getting on to one of my toys, I suppose, if you want to call it that, the DJI Ronin SC, which comes in this really nice case. This is what it actually comes with. I think it's the SC combo which I got at the time, so it comes with some extra bits which I'm not going to be able to remember what everything is because I don't really use this too often, I suppose, which is a little bit sad because this is another bit of expensive kit which I don't really have an excuse why I've not used it, rather than kind of not being proactive enough to get into the situation of filming this sort of stuff. So if you can't tell what this is, it's a gimbal, which I'll assemble it and then we can kind of see what it looks like then, because currently it's a bit like, if you've not seen one of these before it might be a bit confusing. If not, it's a gimbal in bits and it just assembles quite straightforwardly. So this is it kind of assembled together. You've basically got this bottom section here which screws on. It also acts as a tripod for sitting it down. You've got your handle section which just slides on. It's kind of just as a lever here, slide it back and it pops on. And then how this works is that your camera, which is the one that we're filming on now, will mount onto here like so, if we can figure out which way she wants to go. It's weird because it won't sit how it wants to sit because it's not got a camera on it. It's kind of like that though, and it's got like motors on each axis basically, so you've got like your that way. There's names for all these like pitch, roll and whatever, but I don't know what they're all called if I'm honest with you. So you've got your up and down, side to side, and the dodgy angle as well. And the focus of this is basically put your camera on it and then you can film, I suppose moving stuff, I guess would be a good term for it, for such as like car rollers. So you're hanging out the back of a car. I can't do it with my hand because it's not got a camera on it, but it will basically keep the camera from shaking and wobbling about as much as it can. I have a bit of a pain when I'm using it, to be fair. The camera I use, there's basically like rated cameras that this is compatible with, and then they've got a bigger version of this which is like a big heavy thing, or I don't know if it's heavy, I've not got one, but this is the compact one, but it's still quite meaty. Then there's a more chunkier one which is rated for one of the cameras. The one I've got, you can use it on this, but it's kind of on its limit of what it wants to be using, sort of thing. So it's, sometimes it'll just like, I don't know if you're familiar with gimbals or not, it depends on obviously who's watching this, but it will sort of like shake about and stuff, and then you just have to recalibrate and make sure. Basically, if you set it up correctly, like perfectly weight-wise, then it'll be sound. But obviously adjusting the lens, because the lens moves from like 16 to whatever, it has a range that the lens can move. If that's moved, then you have to recalibrate it again just because of the weight moving about basically. Oh, we've changed to the Rode mics as well, so you'll get the sound difference in that. I don't know if I mentioned that, but we've got that there anyway. But yeah, this is a good bit of kit in terms of what it can do and the capabilities of it. Unfortunately, I don't get the max out of that. There is like a extra bit which you would have seen the side that puts the phone on it, so you can view your camera screen on the phone if you want to see that instead of on your screen now, so it can spin around more. If you have certain cameras as well, there's another feature which I've got the bits for, which goes onto your lens, I believe, so you can like change the focus and stuff. That's why the wheel's there, it's like a focus wheel. My camera's not compatible for that, so it's kind of like one of them of, if I get the right camera in the future, which there's loads of them, it's just I don't have the specific one that they sort of deal with, then it's there. But currently it's kind of just, I don't use it enough to really warrant getting a different camera just for like cinematics, I suppose. But it's there, and it's kind of an option to use if I want to. I do plan on using this a bit more, but it's kind of like, it's kind of arranging stuff, because it's getting cool cars to film. It's a bit of like a long process of planning things, but that's kind of deteriorating off into a different story, I suppose. And then we'll get off into the last interesting thing, which is the editing. Quickly before I start tangenting off, whilst I just lock all the axis on this, is I do have a drone as well, which I assume I've done videos on it. I can't really remember, to be fair, what I've done videos on and haven't, which is a DJI Phantom 3. But that's not here, that's currently just sat in the loft because I don't use that either. It's kind of one of them of like, thought I'd mention it just because it's part of the gear that I've got, but isn't something I use, so it isn't the faff of getting it out just to go, look, I've got a drone, guys. It's just, thought I'd mention it. It's cool, it's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it's a bit of a big thing to kind of use for like, I don't do enough of that style of videos, such as with this, to kind of warrant that currently, but it's also there if I need it. Jumping into the editing side of things now, which I'll get into because that's probably a little bit more interesting for people that know a little bit about cameras and stuff and maybe want to just sort of see how I edit stuff or just learn maybe something in general. Not that I'm someone amazing at it, but it's there. So it's going to be a little tricky to film this because we are outside, but I'm going to kind of just do as best as I can really. So the software that we're on is called DaVinci Resolve, which is sort of like a basic, free is the main word we're going to use here, editing software. This was kind of from my extensive research, I suppose, on the interwebs of looking for something that's free is the main thing. I didn't mind paying if it was an option, but there's a lot of people comparing this to Sony Vegas. I've not used Sony Vegas myself, but I know that's quite a substantial software that you have to pay for. This is kind of compared to it, and it's free. So I watched loads of videos on this, learn how this worked. It does a lot more than what I can do, but I'm going to kind of show you through the processes of what I do. You've got your bars at the bottom here, which is basically like your menu section. I don't use either of these two. You've got like media, which is where you can drop your stuff in. I think that's possibly viewing media or whatnot. It says cut, I don't know, but I don't use that bit, so it's not, I don't class that as important. What I use is the third one. This is like your timeline. So you've got your media pool here, which I believe is probably the same as what that section is. You can go up to file, and then you can import a file, import media, and then you've got obviously your clips, which you've got, which we can just bring a random clip, just open that, and it'll asks about the frame rate thing. I tend to not change that because I'm like, I've filmed it in a frame rate, just leave it in whatever it's in, and it'll basically pop it up to the left. My computer's not the best. It's a HP Pavilion something. It's like 120 something gigs and like 4 gig of RAM. It's not amazing if I'm honest, but it's what we've got. Plan to upgrade it, but that's not here or now. That's kind of, this is what we're dealing with, so this is what we kind of roll with, unfortunately. But click it, drag it down, drop it onto your, it's probably a fancy name for what this bit's called, but it lives along that line. It's got to load in. There we go. My computer's slow. You can see the pain of what I have to deal with when we're editing now. It can be worse or better depending on how my computer's feeling. So you've got video and then sound at the bottom. You can individually get rid of one of them if you want to. You can fade in and out by dragging these corner pieces like in. I don't know if that makes sense. Obviously it depends on how computer literate you are or whatever you've done with. You can see that though. That's visually, you can learn from that. That fades in or out basically. And then you can drag across. You've got this button here which will crop any section that you drag that to. this obviously isn't a tutorial of how to edit, but I'm just trying to explain quickly of kind of what I use, I suppose. And then you get it on the right, a preview of it, and you click play, and it'll play when your computer loads, which mine's not amazing, so it will go at some point. There we go. It's going slowly. This is what I would deal with. It will play the video more fluently depending on what you've got video computer wise. Mine's not amazing, so it goes off occasionally and it freezes and stuff, but it's kind of there. I make do with it. That's why I don't enjoy editing too much. I'm going to skip through this bit anyway of like where we're at, because I'm going to ramble too much, which I do that too easily. I think this bit's like a touch-up mode. You can play with colours and stuff, which I do not do. Someone that's into colour rendering, I think is the term for that, can love this. There's so much stuff to learn on here, but I don't see the point for the style of videos I make. I think that's possibly a similar thing to do with colours. It's got a colour wheel on it. We don't use that. Same with that one. The only bits we use basically is the third one along there and the end one. So we basically edit, crop. It's now gone blank because this isn't the software. This is just because my computer's not amazing. The software itself's really good. Use the third one across and the last one. So that one, we edit all the stuff in, drop the clips, crop them down, change the sound, add music, transitions and stuff all there if you want to use them. You've got like your effects bit and all that, but we're not going to go into all that because there's someone that will be very good at explaining this compared to myself. And then the end bit, your rocket ship, which is really cool. It's basically where you render the video when it loads, which we're currently doing slowly. There we go. Click your options, which I'll always, it's basically just render settings. I'll just click on the YouTube 1080, which doesn't mean it has to be 1080 because then you have a drop down bar of your resolution, which you can then select whatever it is. But obviously you can't click 4K if your video is not filmed in 4K because it doesn't magic, it does what it's got. And then you click that, click your frame rate of whatever. I believe that'll only go within select things. You can change like your border outline, which has a frame, the name I was going to say, not a frame, crikey. And then you basically add to render queue. It beams it across. It wants me to save it as a name. Oh god, it's going to be on my computer now as something. And then you just click start render and it'll start rendering, which it says a time of minutes there, which will change depending on what it is. That says 20 minutes, and that was a small clip which you've seen. I think this depends on computer processing speeds because my computer's like not great. It's dropped to 13 though, which is good. I mean, it's only a short video, which isn't a video, it's just a clip. But it's just kind of showing you there of what that is. So that is kind of a quick summary of what my editing / videoing gear kind of is, of how I create these videos. Obviously it's nothing too like amazing that's going to blow them away, but maybe it'll be something interesting for maybe someone that wants to start YouTube or just has an interest in gadgets and stuff, I suppose. I mean, the camera I'm currently using is the godsend of my channel and whatnot of how I film stuff. It's a very good camera. The viewfinder is great. It's why I keep looking over there because I was looking at myself. But it's just a big screen so you can see what's going on. It's quite clear. Obviously pairs with an external mic, detachable lens if that's an option that you want, and it's just good quality. I would say in general, personal opinion might have a different opinion to me, but you can only see what you can see. And then obviously you've got the rest of my stuff that we've all gone over, but this is the stuff we use. Bar that really, but that will be used a bit more hopefully next year if I can kind of get my arse into gear. But without going off too far on a tangent, because that has covered what I wanted to cover, hopefully it was enjoyable, hopefully it was informative. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to do one of these in a couple of years time. Maybe I've upgraded my camera, maybe I've bought a new laptop eventually. That is on the to-do list of things first, because editing is a pain currently, mainly because of the laptop's very slow at doing anything. So it's kind of like click video and it limits to what I want to do, because it's kind of demotivating if you build all this content up and you're like, got to try and edit it, and then it just takes forever because it's just loading rather than anything else. But that's, I'm not going to stop moaning. We're kind of where we're at currently, and I'll buy stuff as and when. Hopefully it was enjoyable, hopefully you learned something. Thanks for watching guys, catch you later.